What's up, y'all? It's BB, Broke Bodega, your boy. Uh, this is my second attempt at recording this. I got about 5 minutes in last time, and for some reason, OBS stopped recording, and I didn't notice. But that should make this recording a little bit more high quality. So, I am pulling an all-nighter tonight. I'm graduating high school in a couple days, and I just finished all my work today, so I wanted to celebrate it a little bit and pull an all-nighter. So, I'm gonna be recording this video to pass the time during the all-nighter. I'm gonna be reading maybe a couple trip reports. We'll see how long one of them takes. From Errowid. They're gonna be Benadryl trip reports today, exclusively. So let's get started. I have read a little bit of this already. This first one. I was just gonna look at them blind. That was the plan, but then my first recording didn't really work out well. So I'm gonna be reading this first one that I started, and then I only got about halfway through with it, so we'll be fine. We'll be all right. But enough of me rambling. Whatever. Yeah. Let's get started. So preemptively, little disclaimer: don't do drugs. They're harmful. Only use them as prescribed. Don't abuse Benadryl. It's very dangerous. It's not like a lot of people also will use Benadryl because they think it's like a psychedelic sort of like the hallucination stuff. It's not. It's more like of a delirium in higher doses, which is very dangerous. Also leads to incredible amounts of dehydration. Just terrible. You can only use Benadryl as an allergy medicine. Anyway, that's that disclaimer. Also, if you don't know, T plus, T whatever, it just means like the time since they dosed. So if it was T minus, it would be before they dosed. T plus 30 in this instance for you'll see. That means 30 minutes after they dosed. So T plus 0 took 16 pills, which is a total of 400 milligrams of Benadryl. Diphenhydramine is the chemical name for it. T plus 30 minutes after dosing. Watching Family Guy with friends, very relaxing. Hands and feet are feeling kind of heavy. Sound slightly enhanced. I'm hearing the carbonated bubbles popping and the Pepsi can on my desk. Friends are now leaving. They will be back at noon tomorrow. 50 minutes after dosing. Went to the bathroom and out of nowhere, the green walls became blue. It was very odd because I didn't know what was happening at first. Hearing random sounds, clicks, beeps, music, people talking, birds chirping, more people talking. Moving has become very fluid and relaxing. Seeing more random things, like subtle little movement out of the corners of my eyes. 55 minutes after dosing. My vision has become blurred, and my mind tends to wander off track. It's hard to read and write. Some minor hallucinations. Now it'd be nearly impossible to I can't art to. As you can probably tell, I was a little messed up in the brain when I was trying to write this trip report. So I'm finishing the trip report now as I am sober and able to type. The time thing kinda got thrown out the window with this whole thing, so I'll just explain everything as I can remember it on that night. Keep in mind, on the night of this trip, I was alone the entire time. After my failed attempt to write, I got off my chair, and there was a little spider on the floor in my room. Same size as a normal spider. Not strange or anything out of the ordinary. I've become accustomed to spiders in my room from time to time. seeing as my room is in the basement right next to all of our storage stuff. I proceeded catching it in a tissue and flushing it down the toilet and continuing with my trip. While I was walking out of the bathroom, there were like 3 or 4 more on the ground outside of my room. I really didn't think too much of it, except that it was a little odd that randomly there were so many. I didn't like that the spiders were there, but I decided not to waste my time killing all of them. I sat in my room feeling very pleasant watching more Family Guy, and just trying to be in a calm state of mind. I was thirsty, so I decided to venture out of my room into the fridge, not 15 feet from my room in the storage room. I opened my door and looked down to see the same spiders before, now building a little web in the corner of the wall. And then I saw something on the floor. It was almost the same shade as my carpet, kind of a light tan / whitish color. I bent down to look more closely as I'm trying to focus the best I can, and all of a sudden my vision wasn't blurry anymore, and I saw what was on the floor. It was a fucking scorpion, and a big ass one too. I really had no time to respond to this because right then I see someone run down the stairs and go to the piano and start playing it. It seems like it was my brother, but at this time of night, following him was my dad. Walking slower, he said, "Hey, turn the piano off and come back upstairs. I'll tuck you in." I was relieved to see his face, talking the best I could. I explained to him we have a really bad spider infestation, and that I found a scorpion on the floor. He stood there looking off towards the pool table, not saying anything. I said a little louder, "Dad," and then I repeated what I had just said a little louder than I did before. I need some water. Hold on. My bad, chat. Fuck. My bad. Where was I? I was really confused now. I was wondering why he wouldn't respond back to me. And then he walked around towards the pool table and out of my immediate sight. I followed him to see if he was alright, but there was nothing. Not a single person in the entire basement. Trust me, I searched. I went back to my room and remembered what I went to do originally. Get a drink. Not remembering that the scorpion was on the ground outside my room, I looked back at the spiders making their web. I tried to find a clear path that wouldn't disturb them. Right then I saw the big-ass scorpion again. I forgot about it temporarily, but there it was. Pincers out and sail up, ready to sting. I'm not a pussy or anything, but this scared the shit out of me. I jumped over it nervously and continued to get a drink. I kept seeing the same strange color. I kept seeing that same strange color difference in different areas on my basement carpet. I ignored it at first, carefully watching my step, trying not to step on these scorpions and get stung. I got my drink, but I didn't end up in my room for like 2 more hours. I was at this point sweating profusely. Me not ever doing any hallucinogens before, and even worse, doing it alone on a Friday night. I went into my bar and grabbed every glass, cup, and mug I could get. At this point, I didn't know what was reality and what was just the hallucinations. And that really, really is not a good thing. I was freaking out, having the worst trip of my life. I proceeded in carefully crawling around the floor and capturing every single scorpion I could find in my basement so that I could be safe and able to get sleep at ease. In total, I put down maybe 50 to 75 glasses around my entire basement. As I'm laying down one of the cups, I look up and there was this girl standing by my couch. So not knowing this person, I was like, "Who the hell are you? And why are you in my house?" She calmly replied that she was friends with my friend Andy, and they were both just stopping by to say hi. She also said that she drove him. At this point, it was 2:30 a.m., and I'm straight pissed off. I'd pretty much forgotten about the damn scorpions. Andy has been known to do dumb and very inconsiderate things, but this crossed the line. I found Andy standing in the game room by the air hockey table in all my brother's dress clothes, and I was like, "Dude, why did you come over? It's like 2 a.m. and you can't be here. My parents will hear you two and ground my ass. So you need to leave this second. I'm not fucking kidding anymore. Then I realized that I was shouting and that my parents might hear me, so I quieted down and walked back into my basement area. The strange girl was still there, and I kept pleading to her that they needed to leave right now or we would all be in trouble. She wouldn't respond to me. I went in closer to tap her and get her attention, but then she disappeared. I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Right as I see Andy walking over towards my pool table, and just as I went to tap him, he disappeared too. I was so confused and scared all in the same time. I shook my head and tried to make sense of all this, and then I saw this mysterious chick again, in the same place as before. She told me that they would be leaving in like 15 minutes and that they were sorry about coming over. I thanked her and tried to explain the weird shit that was happening. I showed her all the glasses and cups and told her that there were a bunch of very camouflaged scorpions on my carpet, and I had been trying to catch them so I wouldn't get stung. I told her that there may be more to look out and be very careful. This story is crazy. See, this is a perfect example of why you shouldn't take large amounts of Benadryl, because like the poster said at the beginning of this, they had not like interacted with anyone this entire story. They were completely alone. But continuing on, I was sort of calming down. I was still very carefully watching every single step I took on my basement carpet. I went to watch TV, but I couldn't focus on the TV for some strange reason. I was getting kind of cold, so I went up to get a blanket to wrap up with, but ended up getting a towel from the bathroom and still being cold. I think at this time I turned on the light to the stairs and ended up starting up the stairs. I stopped about halfway and realized that this was not a good idea to go upstairs like this. Unfortunately, I was way too fucked up to care. I was hunting for scorpions, and they had made their way to the entryway. I was determined to stop them, but ended up going back downstairs. I walked back down and stood at the last step of the stairs and sat down trying to make sense of this night and make an attempt to calm down. When I sat down, I saw Steve next to me and at the end of the stairs. I started talking to him and telling him that I was having a really bad trip and I needed him to talk to me. I look up and it turns out that I was talking to a blanket that was draped over a railing. I got up quickly and grabbed the blanket and threw it on the web. It was now a picture-perfect round spider web with brown recluses in the center of it. It is poisonous and I avoided any contact with it. Next, I was carefully examining the big 3 to 4 inch long camouflaged scorpion that was now under clear glass so he couldn't sting me. I would tap the glass and he would put out his pincers and raise his tail ready to attack. It was quite frightening. Right then I noticed that Steve was standing behind me pointing to the darkness in the storage room. I'd asked him what he was looking at and he said that I could see it if I looked close enough. Sure enough, there was a bird, a pigeon to be exact, standing in the room looking at me, with its little beady eyes moving its head around. I felt as if he could read my mind and my thoughts. I turned around to tell Steve that I saw the bird and that there was nobody there. I was again seeing and having conversations with people that were not there. I think that was meant to say I went into my room, looking for anything to comfort me. But the only thing I could think was that the fact that there were no spiders or scorpions in my room as of yet. I look over and Andy is sitting at my computer in my chair. I didn't even know what to say to him. I had figured that they had left at least an hour ago since I didn't see them anywhere. To make it even worse, that girl he was with was lying in my bed sleeping. I tried everything to get them to leave, but nothing. I would ask him things and he would respond back to me, just silence. I would go to tap the girl and she would disappear and then reappear when I was further away. This was getting increasingly frustrating, and even more while I was losing it. I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. I was seriously about to start crying. Then, there was nothing. I don't recall what happened from then until just before the end of my trip. The next thing I remember was walking down the stairs from the second floor of my house with my dad next to me talking and stuff. I kept saying the best I could that I had a nightmare and that I was really hot. I was drenched in sweat, and I mean soaked. He got me some ice water, and I went back to the basement of my room where I apparently went to sleep. I figured that it was just another one of my hallucinations. Next morning, my dad wakes me up at 10:30, telling me that he was going to one of my brother's school things. He asked me if I remembered what happened last night. Of course, I responded with a, "What do you mean?" I knew what I did last night, from 10 p.m. to about 6:30 a.m., and the rest I figured I just slept and dreamt that part about talking with my dad while I was tripping. Here is what really happened. I personally do not remember any of this, but my dad told me this all. I ended up walking upstairs again, but not going back down like before. I ended up going all the way to the upstairs where my brother's and parents' bedrooms were. I ended up standing right next to my parents' bed on my dad's side, not saying anything, just standing there. He said that we had a conversation that went something like this. "What are you doing up here?" Me, "Nothing." "Dad, is everything okay?" Me, "Yeah." "Dad, what do you want?" Me, "Nothing." He then brought me back to the kitchen and gave me a cold glass of water and asked me again if everything was okay. I replied yes, but I had a really bad nightmare and he noticed that I was soaked with sweat. He said that we sat in the kitchen and talked for another 5 minutes. Then he said I went downstairs and went to sleep. He figured that I was sleepwalking because I had done similar things in the past. So it turns out that I wasn't hallucinating talking to my dad tripping out. That's really strange because I wasn't nervous at all talking to him. Just played it cool and I'm in the clear. Alright. So, oh my gosh, dude. This story was posted in 2007. That's the year I was born. This story's 18 years old. That's crazy. Okay. Well, it's been about 15 minutes. My voice is kind of sore now. So, I hope y'all liked this video. I hope y'all enjoyed this video, this first video. I'd like to do more stuff like this. Maybe some horror stories, just 4chan maybe, just stuff like that. You know, I love like watching people like read stories and stuff. So I figured I would like start doing it myself because I do it in my free time, and like I listen to other people, and I'm sure there's stories that like people haven't read yet that are interesting. So I hope you enjoyed the first video on this channel. Chat, Broke Bodega out.